Greetings, everyone. Dr. Brian Scott with you. Welcome back. This is Insights to the End Times, and we have been sharing with you from the Scriptures, the Bible. We've been sharing with you verses, chapters of signs of the end times, signs of the end of the age. Matthew chapter 24. Jesus spoke that entire chapter on things to expect before the end of the age as signs of the end. Same kind of statements were made in Mark 13 and in Luke chapter 17 and 21. And then the Apostle Paul spoke at great length in some of the books he wrote, the letters he wrote, especially the letters he wrote to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 4 and 2 Timothy chapter 3. And there are numerous other references that we've shared. We've dissected the book of Revelation. There's 22 chapters. We've covered all but the very last chapter, which we will be covering this year. And we've looked at all the signs and all the elements of wrath that are going to be poured out on the earth during the 7 years of tribulation. So we have been studying in these Insight podcasts, where are we on God's timetable as we approach the end of the age? And we're getting closer and closer. Yesterday, we were talking about the shifts that are occurring in thinking amongst various groups of people, especially the younger generations. And a lot of what's occurring currently are protests against Israel. So anti-Semitism has become a very, very, very important issue all of a sudden once again. But I want to continue some of those thoughts today because I asked the question, who do you believe? The breaking news you see today reports on the most egregious type of events that are occurring on that particular day. But then later, when we get more information, we find out that they maybe had overstated things or exaggerated things, and they've had to correct things. I want to go back and speak to you about my background for a moment. I studied at university, as I mentioned yesterday, for over 7 years, and then 2 additional years of training as a articling student, and then at the Law Society's Bar Admission course, as they call it. So I spent 9 years in a university-type setting, and when I was in the law school, in the 3 years of my law degree, we were taught that researching the previous law and the decisions made in legal cases was an extremely important part of our education and the way we would practice, because we had to uphold the integrity of the law, and we had to determine from our research how courts had decided previous cases with similar facts. So we were dealing with legal precedent or legal precedent, depending on how you like pronouncing it. And it was very important for us to do so, because if you didn't know all the cases of a similar nature and the results of those cases, you could lose your status with the court and your standing with the court very quickly. We spent hours, because we didn't have computers at that time. This was in the 1970s for me. We didn't have computer access. We had to study. We went to the law library. We went to what we called the stacks, and we spent hours and hours and hours, and so on and so forth. Things were pretty stable then. We didn't see a lot of variation occurring in the way we looked at things. It was more of what I would call black and white. You read the legal books and you saw where things stood. Things have changed a great deal. Most of the standards that we knew at that time have been kicked to the curb, not only in the law, but in all other aspects of life. Things have really, really changed. And one of the things that we're reading about now, especially coming to the surface since the October invasion by Hamas terrorist group against Israel, is there's a new terminology and a new way of thinking, and it boils down to 2 facets. Oppression is the new big term word. You are either the oppressor or you are being oppressed. Everything revolves around this concept of conflict between people. So it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a war, an attack, Who's the oppressor in this Hamas invasion of Israel? Who's the oppressor in the retaliation taken by Israel against the Hamas group in Gaza Strip? These terms have become the go-to terms. And so if you have a conflict with a neighbor, now it's being devolved into or ending up in who's the oppressor and who's the oppressed. And man, I'm telling you, this is restructuring life, really is. Now, Paul, as I said earlier, he wrote a lot of the books in the New Testament. I forget how many actually he wrote, something like 13 letters to various churches, including the book of Romans and then, Corinthian church, 2 books there, 2 books to the pastor Timothy. He wrote, Galatians, Ephesians, Colossians, Philippians, and so on and so forth. And Paul said, you're going to have perilous times in these last days, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. He said, things are really going to change. And you know what we're seeing is that perilous conditions are occurring because people, they don't think like they used to. They don't act like they used to. They don't behave like they used to. And they don't believe like they used to. Things have drastically changed. When I go back to my law school days, here's the deal. The legal books, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of legal text and decisions. They called them here in Ontario reports. It was straightforward. This is how the court decided. This is the way it is. This is what you better be aware of. Now that doesn't seem to matter. Here's the deal. I said it, therefore it's true. You better agree with me. Because I said it. Well, what do you know about it? It doesn't matter what I know about it. I just said it. That's my opinion. My opinion is right. You have to agree with me. There's no room for debate. That's the situation we're dealing with. You know, when I was in school, as elementary school, the biggest sin that I recall was chewing gum. It was almost worthy of a detention or a suspension, but certainly you didn't want to chew gum in school. Now, wait a minute. Do you know what kids are dealing with in school now in these elementary grades? What bathroom do I use? Today, am I a boy or am I a girl? My teacher tells me that I have to choose. What pronouns should I use? I don't even know what a pronoun is. And on this confusion goes. Folks, I'm telling you, our kids today are coming home from school, grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s. They're coming home from school saying to their mommy, "Mommy, am I a boy or am I a girl?" Here's what I'm trying to convey to you. Things are changing, and they're changing rapidly. And because they're changing the way we're thinking, the way we're believing, we're not basing them on the way things were determined in the past, which has always been the case from a legal point of view. I can remember researching cases out of Great Britain that would date back to the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s. And they would be the law. And you better make sure your client lines up with that picture. I had one case I remember distinctly. It was an insurance claim, a commercial insurance claim. I initiated the action on behalf of my client. I was suing the insurance company. They refused to cover the claim. The people, they lost product from their store. I was all set to go to the first stage of proceedings called discoveries. And I lost. Another lawyer called me and said, "Did you see the change that occurred in the law in London, England this past month? They ruled that that clause in the agreement excludes your ability to sue. You better get out of that lawsuit. You're going to be in trouble." See, it was important for us to follow rules. Rules are all over the map today. We're going to share more on this tomorrow. Don't miss it. See you then.